Welcome to the Voices of the Goddess podcast. We believe that there is a goddess inside each and every one of us. When we use our voice to share that goddess, we support and uplift each other. Join us each week as we interview women to receive the message of their goddess within. We are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Voices of the Goddess podcast. I am Julietta Wenzel, the magical PT, and we are so glad that you are joining us today here to get more insights on how to tap into that goddess that's within inside you and make all of your desires become reality. And today we are super lucky to be joined by Lisa Perry. She's an executive coach, and welcome. Why don't you tell our audience who you are and what you do?
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Julietta. It's really fun to be here. I am an executive coach and trainer. I am credentialed through the International Coach Federation, which is actually the only standardizing body for coaches worldwide. I've trained through the Coach Training Institute, which is recognized as one of the world's leading coach programs. And I've also studied Neuro-Linguistic Programming. So anything coach related, I am always very interested in and always studying. I am a wife and a mom of 2 teenagers. And up until a year and a half ago, I spent most of my 20 years of my career working and living abroad in the Middle East and in Asia. And now we're in Florida.
An interesting life that you've led. And I love that you said that you're always looking to learn more yourself. And I think that is such a big deal. You know, for me as a physical therapist, I'm 30 years into my career, and I'm always looking for something more, some other way that I can better serve my clients. And you kind of seem like that kind of person too.
Right. I know. And sometimes I feel like it can almost become a bit of a fault though, because I'm always feeling like I have so much more to learn. I forget to recognize what I actually already do know and have accomplished, because I just am so aware of what else is out there and how it doesn't seem like I'm ever caught up.
That is a huge thing, and something I think I suffered with earlier in my career, like always almost thinking that you're not enough. Like I have to do more to be good enough. And we do get to acknowledge our accomplishments so far and acknowledge that we do know a lot and we have a lot to offer the world. So
right. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Well, I'm super glad that you're on our show today. We're missing Allison. She's traveling. So, but I think Julietta and Lisa will hold down the show just fine.
Absolutely.
So we're going to dive into the questions. And the first question is, what is your superpower? Or you can tell us, what if you could choose any superpower, what would it be?
Right. All right. Well, there's so many superpowers that I would like to have. So I was trying to think of what I might actually already have. And it kind of dawned on me that I've been told by, previous, in my previous career and just by friends in general, that it's like I'm a good people reader. And I think what it comes down to is intuition. And it took me a while to develop that. I'm still developing it, because intuition oftentimes needs a quiet space to present itself. And in our busy lives, in our busy world, sometimes we just don't get quiet enough or we don't trust ourselves enough to listen to it. And I find that when I really do trust myself to follow those hunches, and that just kind of like that gut feeling that I have, that's intuition speaking to me. And more times than not, it plays through. It's accurate. And so, the older I get and the more experiences I have, I realize that that's a real, we all have that ability, but I'm learning how to tap into it more. And I learned, I think it's been about 13 years ago, I was learning Reiki. And that it really started to present itself then. And I think that was probably the time when I started to grow into my own kind of spirituality. And the more I did, the more the intuition grew. So I still have trouble. Sometimes I have to remind myself to trust myself.
I think that's something too, in my work is very intuitive, and my whole adult life, people, what are you, a witch? Are you a psychic? What, but it's not something like, I'm not special. Everybody has the ability to tap into it. It is just that trusting yourself is huge.
Yeah.
And once you start, like you said, like you notice, like, yeah, my gut was right. Like honor that and soak that in. Like, yeah, my gut, my intuition, whatever you want to call that, is going to lead you the way that you need to go. And as goddesses out there, like we all need to pay way more attention to that. And like you said, the more you pay attention to it, the stronger it gets and the more it grows. And where tension goes, what is that?
Energy flows.
Yes.
Yes. I totally believe that. I think it's so true. And I totally agree with you. Like everybody has that as a superpower. It's just a matter of like, how willing are you to accept it, to trust it, and to develop it?
I think nowadays too, like people are becoming more open to it. Like, possibly historically, like religious beliefs, like led people to believe that it was something that wasn't good, that maybe it was sinful or evil or something like that. And I think people are realizing that it's not, and it's something that's innate in all of us. And we just get to tap in, tune in, and use that superpower.
Right. 100%.
Awesome. All right. You ready for question number 2?
I want to ask you, because I know you guys always do the questions, but, and I've listened to some of your podcasts, but what is your superpower?
What is my superpower? I'm the magical PT, so doing magic is my superpower.
Okay.
So you'll have to come get on my table one day and experience the magic.
I love that.
Awesome. All right. Are you ready for question number 2?
I am.
So question number 2 is, what is a book that has greatly influenced your life?
Okay. So I've got a couple, but they're in different
directions. It's hard
directions.
to pick one.
I know. So I'm gonna say one, because they're totally different directions. So I've got some that are more coaching related, but the one that, if I'm really honest, that has impacted my life the most was one I read about 15 years ago. It's already been said on one of your podcasts because I've heard it. It's Many Lives, Many Masters by Brian Weiss.
Yeah.
And it's still a book that, I can't believe it's been 15 years ago since I read it, because it's actually still a book that if I hear someone who maybe, especially if they've experienced loss and they're grieving, it's a book that I always recommend. But it's also one just to kind of tap into all of the kind of possibilities that we just don't know, right? Like there's so much that we don't know, and I'm not going to be one to deny anything, because there's just too much that I don't know. So I love that book. It was really powerful for me when I read it.
Nice. Have you ever seen Brian Weiss?
I have not. No, not live.
Yeah. A few years back, I saw him live at the Broward Convention Center here, and it was a lot of fun. And he led us through some group regressions. And
oh, really? Did it work as a group?
I don't know what everybody's experience was, but most of the people that I spoke with there had good experiences.
Okay.
I've done other group regressions in the past, and I also have done like a private regression as well. So have you done one?
I have. I think I feel like I was kind of halfway there, to be honest. I did it after I'd read this book because I was just so into it. I was living in the Middle East at the time, and I'm not sure how experienced the person was that was leading me through it. And I kept second, maybe some of it comes back to this whole trusting yourself, because I felt way too present for me to have actually been going through a regression. But I did have visions. So I do feel like I was kind of partly there, but also still maybe too much here.
Yeah, I agree with the whole trust thing, that when you are doing a regression, you have to trust that what you're experiencing, the visions that you have, the sensations you have to just trust them. And the more that you trust them, then the deeper that you can go. So
yeah.
Cool.
I'd love to try again though.
I have a friend I can recommend to you.
Actually, yeah, that would be great.
She's local, but she's still doing by Zoom just because of, the pandemic that we're going through and stuff. But
well, we realized that Zoom actually is a really amazing kind of medium for not just professional meetings, but all kinds of therapies and transmission, apparently, psychic readings.
Super creative.
Yeah.
And that's one of the gifts of 2020 and COVID, and now we're running into 2021 here. But and we've talked about this a few times on the show, like looking at the positive things, and something that this has brought to all of us is pushing us to grow and look at things differently and try new things and be open to possibilities. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think I find that with coaching as well, because you'll have a lot of clients who are just so stuck because the changes were just they seem so unforeseeable, right? And they don't know how to adapt. And a lot of times just through coaching and asking some really powerful questions, it allows people to kind of move from where they are feeling stuck to actually getting really creative. And how can we actually thrive and not just survive, but thrive even in times like this?
Yeah. I think this is a super important time for people to get coaching. If you're not able to pivot and shift and figure this stuff out yourself, like it's the perfect time to get yourself a coach. And
it really is. And I think a lot of people are starting to recognize that, and a lot of businesses are starting to recognize that. And some people have that ability, but for most of us, it's really, really difficult to get out of the mindset that we're in, of feeling stuck and feeling like things are just not going in your favor, right? And so it's a really easy to spiral down a little bit, but it's just as easy to spiral back up. And you just need a little bit of creativity, and sometimes it takes that second person to come in and just ask the right questions and shift perspective a little bit for you.
Totally. Yes. All right. Question number 3 is, as goddesses, it's super important for us to take care of ourselves. Allison loves the analogy of and we're going to use it because she's flying today, but they say, put your own oxygen mask on first before you help others.
Yeah.
And so it's super, super important for us to take care of ourselves so that we can do, everything it is that we want to do for other people. So the question is, what is your favorite self-care practice?
Well, I agree. I actually agree with that analogy about putting your own oxygen mask on first. But I think especially as women, we have this very nurturing, typically a very nurturing style. We're so busy taking care of everyone else that we start to fizzle. So one thing that I do almost every day is exercise. It is something that used to be hard to get into, but now if I don't work out for a day, a good 24 or 48 hours, I can feel it, because I mentally need that. Because I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm not thinking about my to-do list. I'm not thinking about any problems or, that need solved. I'm just physically present in my body, working out, and I feel so great afterwards. So exercise is my number one. But
what kind of exercise do you practice?
Well, I actually have been kind of a gym rat for a really long time, but having lived in Thailand, I got into Muay Thai, which is a form of martial arts. And I practice that locally there in Bangkok. And so I love Muay Thai. I love that kind of feeling of power and feeling like I can protect myself as well. So it's good, especially for women, to feel strong.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you're bringing that up because it's been a conversation showing up in different circles lately, and with women and not feeling safe. And a friend of mine just posted on Facebook today this guy was lecturing in a room full of men and women, and he asked the men, what things do you do to make sure that you feel safe? And the men were like, what kind of question is this? Like, they were like, nothing. And then asking women, what do they do? And like the list is a mile long of like not being alone and locking your car door, and if you're going to meet someone on a date, going to a public place, and just like this endless list of things that women have to do to feel safe. And so, yeah.
That's so interesting. And I think that, gosh, that list would probably be longer, but some of the things that we do to feel safe are probably subconscious. Like we don't even realize we're doing it because we've been doing it for so long as like a safety mechanism for ourselves.
Yeah. So interesting times, and interesting, and this is part of what all of this stemmed out of too, is, we've lived in such a patriarchal society for thousands of years, and it really is time to awaken the sacred feminine and, make this world a more loving, healing, happy place. And hopefully there will be a time when women don't have to sit there and worry about being able to protect themselves and feeling strong enough and feeling safe. And so.
Right. Yeah. And it's really up to us now. I mean, one of my teenagers is a girl, but I think about it for both of them, but especially for women, like we now can really empower our daughters and our nieces and, those around us that, what do they need to do and be to feel safe? But how do we teach our, young men also? Because it's all about equality. It's not about one or the other being different. It's just about all of us recognizing each other as equals.
And finding the balance.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
All right. Our final question, before we started this podcast, we did some research and talked to a lot of women out there, and to know what do they want help with. And one thing that came up over and over again was accountability. And so the question is, how do you create accountability?
Well, so I would say other people should get a coach for accountability. I have an accountability partner in my husband. We're also business partners, and we work really well together. But before we were business partners, he's really driven it too. He's very goal oriented. And so we will sit down together and write out our goals, or we will share our goals with each other. And then we will check in with each other as well. But for myself, if that's probably more periodically that we do that, but on a daily basis. And this is something I've started fairly recently, after reading a book by Marshall Goldsmith, who is another coach. And they're accountability questions. They're your daily questions. And I answer them every night. And you can have as many as you'd like. But basically the question starts with, did I do my best today too? And so whatever my goals might be, or whatever I want my questions to be. So I can have personal in there. So it's like, did I do my best today to be kind and loving to my son, to my daughter, to my husband? Did I do my best today to meet my goals of my business? And so I can break those down if I want to have like 20 questions into each of my goals and say, did I do my best today? And you can answer those as a yes or no, or you can have this sliding scale where, some people might have did I do my best today to work out? If fitness is one of their goals, and maybe they could say yes or no, but maybe they actually just went on a short walk and it wasn't really what they wanted to do. It wasn't as intense. So they could say it was a 5, but tomorrow they're going to push themselves to make sure it's an 8 or a 9. So I do those daily questions every night.
I love that. Wow. I really love that. So we're getting towards the end of the show here, and we always ask what our takeaways are, and that's going to be my takeaway. I love that. Did I do my best? And very cool. I was going to say earlier, I was thinking I love to just, we always need the reminder to trust ourselves. Doesn't matter how well we trust ourselves, we need that reminder to trust ourselves even more. So that was originally going to be my takeaway, but then I don't think I've ever heard that before, which it just seems it kind of seems obvious, but
right. Yeah, it's super simple, but it's really effective, and you can just have it on your bedside table so that every night you're reminded. And if you want to change your own questions every week, they don't have to be the same. But you can, include your business, your personal as well. Just
nice.
make sure you're hitting your mark.
I like it. What was your takeaway from today?
I feel like the whole conversation was so great and so fun. But I think my takeaway was that I need to come experience some magical PT. For sure, that's my takeaway.
Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on with me today, Lisa. It was a pleasure having you. We're going to make sure that we put your contact information and stuff in the comments and in the podcast. This will be in the show notes. And I want to thank all of our listeners for joining us today. If you enjoyed what you heard, please make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, our podcast. Check out the show notes to find out all the information, how you can get in contact with us. And all the resources of the books and everything that we talked about today with Lisa, that will be in the show notes as well, so you can check it out. And thank you all for joining us today. Have a magical day, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Julietta.
Thank you.